Okay, this is question 3 from test 4, which is like nothing like we've done in any of the other questions. So the way to do this one is this is like a trial and error kind of starter to a question. It's asking what the value. It's not actually asking us to solve the equation. I don't think. It's just asking us whereabouts the solution will be. So in order to decide that, the first thing you want to do is move everything to one side. So I've taken this half times 7 to the power of x and moved it to the left hand side. The reason for that is because this will help us look for when the graph crosses the x-axis. When the graph crosses the x-axis, in other words, when y is 0, the answer changes from a positive number to a negative number. So if we test, say A was the right answer. If we test x at 0.2 and get a positive number, and then test x again at 0.4 and get a negative number, the answer, the real proper answer for x must be somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4 because it's gone from positive to negative. That's something called the sign change rule, which we use when we're trying to find rough answers for an equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to test all of these numbers and look for when. And if you notice, the last number in this one is the first number in this one, so they all link to each other. So I'm just going to start working out the answers when x is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8 and 1, and hope to see the sign change at some point. So this is why I asked if you had a power button on your calculator, because we need to do 3 to the power of 0.2 take away a half times 7 to the power of 0.2. And we want to see what that answer is. We're then going to do the same thing for 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8 and 1, and wait to see the sign change. So when it's 0.2, I've got a calculator in front of me. 3 to the power of 0.2 take away a half, 0.5, times 7 to the power of 0.2. That gives me an answer of 0.507. Or 8 if I'm rounding. And I'm going to do the same thing again, but for 0.4 this time. So typing the same thing in again, but I'm putting 0.4 instead of 0.2. That's a little bit smaller. That's 0.463. So we're heading in the right direction. We're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We need to wait until we cross over past the 0 and into a negative number. So the next one, 0.6. Gives me 0.3. So we're not there yet. When x is 0.8, I don't think this is, I think it's going to be E. Let's see. Oh, no, it might be D. When it's 0.8, we get 0.0366. So the answer is really close to 0.8. I bet 1.0 gives us a negative number. Yeah, we got negative a half, negative 0.5. So that tells me because the sign has changed, this thing has happened, this graph has crossed over between, it wasn't 0.2 and 0.4, it was 0.8 and 1. So it's gone from being a positive to a negative, which means somewhere in between 0.8 and 1, it's exactly 0. And that's when we solve the equation. That gets the x number that makes it equal to 0. And that must be somewhere between 0.8 and 1. So the answer is D for this one.